I never know when to start talking on these things, because I know that people will join, but this will also end up posted. But a lot of time when I do videos like this, I debate whether to do it on a live or pre-recording, because online advocacy brings out all kinds of wild situations for us. But that's kind of why I'm here. I'm here today to just kind of give some insight into what it's like to be an online advocate in this current world that we live in. And I don't know if it's because it's like a full moon or what, but I am just at my edge, I guess you can say. So I share this stuff, and I know I get a lot of comments, negative, or, people talking behind the scenes about me. And so many people love to say that I do this for attention or for people to feel sorry for me. Let's just get that out of the way. This video has nothing to do with you feeling sorry for me or me needing pity. It's literally for awareness, because I have to believe that people care about the things I talk about, but the reason they ignore it is because they can't comprehend what it's like coming from our side. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit about what it's been like for me this week, being an online advocate who is also not an ally, but part of the oppressed class. So I started off this week, first and foremost, having a meeting. This is kind of a good thing. I had a meeting with a company that back in July racially profiled me and questioned a gift certificate that I was using, insinuated that it was stolen because I was First Nations. So I am grateful to this company because they have acted the best out of anybody who I've ever experienced in all of my years of advocacy. So I do think that they've done well in addressing my situation, and they acted very much authentically. So that is a good situation. But that's still a hard meeting for me to have. I still don't know if it's possible for me to go into the store ever again, but I'm grateful that me speaking up and speaking out has had effect, and they have actually rolled out new training systems. They learned from me way more than the company that I worked for 25 years. So, I have to give them that. And they're rolling out new training systems, and they swiftly took action. So, that's the good thing, but it still takes an emotional toll on me. So right after that meeting, I open up my cell phone, and I am now reading about an incident at the Prince George Hospital. Once again, one of our people are being discriminated against and treated terribly there. This is an ongoing situation. So this is stories I hear from my family members every time. They cannot go to that hospital without being treated terribly or having their life at risk. So this young woman and her boyfriend, fiance, they go into the hospital for over a year. They went into the Fort St. James Hospital, they went into the Prince George Hospital, and then they finally got taken seriously in Vanderhoof. A year later, and he finds out he has a tumor in his back. Now, this goes viral. We posted, a lot of online social advocates have also posted it. And then, of course, anytime we post stuff, we have to deal with backlash on it every time. That is just part and parcel of how this goes. Some advocates choose to just only have friendly people in their friends list. And I totally get that. I have a different tactic. I just try to suck it up as much as possible. But a lot of them have to do that because it's too much, especially if they have tons of followers. So they just choose to not deal with those people. I personally kind of use the trolls to boost my algorithms, to be honest. I just finished doing that over on Twitter. But anyways, so I'm now advocating for this young couple because what they went through is not okay and is systemic racism. But now I have to hear about how he's white. Well, let me tell you something, that the fact that she isn't, and she was there at every single time, will definitely influence. There is such a thing as racism by proxy. And systemic racism is just that, is often unconscious biases that we're dealing with. So, so there's that. So now I got two things on my plate. They're not super fun. Personal. It turns out this young lady is actually, has some relations with me. And so I didn't know that at first when I started advocating for her. And then right on the heels of this, by the way, this was right on the heels of C-IRG coming onto Wet'suwet'en territory. For anybody who knows about C-IRG or doesn't know about C-IRG, it's the Community Industry Response Group. That is an RCMP sector that for the first time in Canadian history is militarized and given special training for private industry. This is unconstitutional and a total violation of charter rights and freedoms, but nobody cares because it's primarily to push through oil industry against Indigenous people. No one cares that if at one time your jobs are at risk and you want to protest for equal rights, that C-IRG group sure can come after you. So what some people consider to be an Indigenous policing, and then somehow that's okay. Now you need to question why that's okay, because, I believe a lot of white fragility comes because of guilt, because of complacency. So instead, you blame me for the uncomfortableness you feel when I speak truth. So that's the other thing that happens for me in doing this work, in asking for equality for everybody. Suddenly I make you uncomfortable, and then I'm the problem. The uncomfortableness is what you're being made aware of. I'm not the problem. The issue that I'm sharing with you is the problem. So we need to start to move forward, and you need to stop blaming me for the times that I make you uncomfortable. I'm not doing my job well if I make you feel comfortable, because that doesn't do anything. Anyways, so C-IRG is up there, and there's like 44. By the way, taxpayers pay for 44 rooms to be constantly rented out in a hotel for the C-IRG crew, and they're not always there. 44 rooms, that's a lot, because considering that there's only sometimes 12 land defenders up there, what do they need 44 of those guys for? They act as if we have hundreds of people there, but we don't. It's in the middle of nowhere. The land defenders that are up there, they're up there like all the time. They're not 44. So there was that. So, one day, not even a full day, and I've dealt with a meeting about my own racial discrimination. I'm dealing with a young woman and helping support her while she's, experiencing racism in healthcare for over a year. Then I'm also dealing with the fact that Canadians are okay with people coming onto my territory and attacking my people for no reason. Meaning that if I was there, they would do it to me. If it was my grandparents when they were chiefs, they would do it to them. But I'm supposed to just keep my cool, keep my demeanor, be eloquent while I talk about it, right? I'm not supposed to get upset. So then, and what actually inspired me to even do this live right now is Brandy Morin. Brandy Morin is an Indigenous, she used to be a singer. She is a singer, but she also is a reporter. Now, I follow Brandy on all her media, and she posted a live yesterday, which was a bit emotional. And during that, she lists all the reasons why she's emotional. And the fact of the matter is that Brandy has to do that because every time she shows any emotion about anything that is going on against our people or people who look like us, she ends up being told that she's not being professional because she's showing emotion, that her reporting is biased, all this stuff. Well, what are you asking of us? You're asking of us to dehumanize ourselves, not to have emotions. That's impossible. But it really is easy to say when it's not affecting you. It's easy to not have emotions around something when you're not directly affected by it. But to ask her or me to never show an emotion or anger or tear up or cry because, I've heard what people say about me. I cried once watching youth being upset protesting downtown, and I know that a whole bunch of people were like, making fun of me for that. But I'm going to cry because I'm not heartless. It does hurt me that the youth are fighting for their own rights, that we have messed up their future so much that they have to do that. So there's 3 things that I was dealing with in one day. So then I go on to my Twitter account, and oh my gosh, now I met with some woman named Barbara RK on Twitter. That's her handle. She writes for the National Post. So she's a reporter also. Now, she is a genocide denier. She thinks racism against Indigenous people doesn't exist. She thinks that there's good to do with the residential school. And she thinks that my ancestors and my elders and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles' reports on residential school and every other survivor that has these stories is actually us being brainwashed by media back when Kamloops was discovered. And because they brainwashed us, we're now like verbatim just spewing out that propaganda. And so she is saying wrongly that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report was done to basically fuel that propaganda. By the way, that was done years before the 215. And in that report, all of the survivors spoke of these atrocities at every single residential school across the country. It's almost like they had systems in place to do the same thing over and over. It's almost like John A. Macdonald said it himself, that he wanted the native out of the children. And in order to do that, he was willing to execute. That's his own words. This is what our country is built on. You can deny it all you want. He wasn't trying to hide it. This isn't like uncovered. He was like vocal about it. I'm pretty sure he probably got elected for that reason for the first prime minister. I don't know how they did that. But anyways, Barbara RK, National Post. Yeah, so her and Maxime Bernier, you know, the leader of the People's Party of Canada. I'd like to call that the Some People's Party of Canada because he only cares about one sector and it's not mine. So he is also part of this denial crew. He says that we don't experience racism at all. Cultural genocide didn't happen. We don't have a problem here in Canada. And he's going to prove it. Both of them are. So they've launched a nice little website, a research group. And in their own words, he says it's going to be a factual analysis by academics and researchers. That's a really nice way of saying white people with degrees are going to determine whether or not my family members experience what they did at residential school. So that was day 1. Day 2, I wake up because Barbara RK decided that she had issue with something I commented on her Twitter. Yay! I actually like this because this boosts my algorithm and my presence on social media. So anyways, Barbara decides that she's going to boost me. But also that means that I get a whole bunch of racists coming in. So suddenly all these deniers calling me a victim, stop being a victim, stop whining, stop being a baby. I'm only doing this for social media. That's my favorite. I only do this to make myself feel better. Yeah, this makes me feel real good. Can you see how good I feel today? I feel amazing. So this is what I wake up to. I wake up to a bunch of racists in my inbox, a bunch of racists making comments. But again, they boost my algorithm. So, hey, you know. So, so that was 2 days I've been dealing with Barbara RK and her genocide denial and systemic racism denial. And so the whole time I'm being told by many, many Canadians, many people that I don't count, I don't matter, that I deserve where I'm at. Oh yeah, because they're saying things like, my people were about to die. We were going to starve to death. Did you know that? So they saved us when they came here out of the goodness of their heart. And then they educated us. And that's what residential schools were. Some people even said that modern day brought us some feminism. We're matriarchs. We're matrilineal. We did not have gender suppression in our world before they came here. I was raised in both worlds. My grandma is a huge matriarch. Trust me, they're very different. One definitely stands out as being the more compassionate one, that's for sure. Anyways, so this is happening, and I want to explain to you that I just spoke to you from a logical standpoint. Now I'm going to tell you how it makes me feel. We have a whole bunch of Canadians who say I could die tomorrow and it would be okay with them. That I deserve the statistics of being 4 times more likely to meet violence than any other female in Canada. And that's only because I'm older now. If this was 10 years ago or earlier, I would have been 12 times more likely of violence against me. My uncle died in police custody after being beaten, okay? Because the police didn't help him. And I'm supposed to be not angry. Anyways, so then while this is all going on, I'm still boosting about the healthcare and all that stuff. Then I find out that we have a missing woman on our territory, a young mother. She's missing. There is like a huge search party. But let's talk about that. Who do you think's organizing the search party? The family on Facebook, not the police. The police aren't helping out too much. They're like, we don't know where to look. So the family is doing search parties and they find her. She's not good. She's not good, but she's alive. Thank God. And this is just one of many that we'll hear about this year, or we've had in the last year, or the last year, or the last year. I am now almost 50 years old, and my entire life we've been looking for girls and women on our territory. And once again, I just keep getting the same message reinforced that I don't count, people like me don't matter, and Canadians don't give a fuck about us. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to express that kind of anger. So, we're now searching for this young lady. And then I hear that over in Winnipeg, a young mother, age 33, was found dead in the dump. The same dump that just a few months ago, they refused to look, even though they knew a serial killer had dumped 3 bodies there, but they said it was too expensive. Too much money to invest, too much time to invest to look for them. Come on. Canadians, you have to see this. You have to see that if this was your own, they would look. And if they didn't, you would be so mad. Why are you not mad now? Why does this not make you mad? 5 bodies in 1 year. 5 bodies of Indigenous women in 1 year were found there. And then, insult to injury, none of them are deemed homicide. Maybe it's foul play. Yeah, because she was just walking around either in a garbage bin or in the dump and had a heart attack. It was just natural causes. How stupid do they actually think we are? We are no longer back in 1800. We all have grade 12 educations, college education. We're not stupid. We grew up in the same education system as your kids did. Didn't expect us to get smart and eloquent in our speech, did ya? And I'm sorry for anybody who thinks I'm pointing at you directly. I'm not. And I just ask that you hold your just look at those emotions that I might bring up in you. That's all I'm asking. If I trigger these emotions and it makes you feel mad at me or think I don't deserve that, maybe that's somewhere you need to look at. Because this is going to continue until Canadians do that. I am going to go to my grave never seeing progress unless Canadians also help out. Anyways, so they find this body and, I am heavily triggered because now we have a missing woman who has yet to be found on our own territory, which again is called the Highway of Tears. It's notorious. They know about it all over the world. That's my people that go missing. It's me who goes up to my territory and understands that I'm way less safe there than I am going to a third world country. Like, that's crazy. This is supposed to be a developed country. Thank you, Jillian. I see you. Anyways, but when I see that 5 women that look like me are in a dump and no one cares about it, how do you think that's going to affect me? How do you think it's going to affect Brandy? Because her live yesterday that sparked my desire to do this live today was her having just reported on Kurg on the Wet'suwet'en territory, where basically she realizes that an entire police force that has military training and weapons can do that to her at any point in time. Then she just happens to be driving on the actual highway of tears, where she puts her life at risk being there because her, what is normally 4 times likelihood, skyrockets just because she's alone driving on that highway. And then she hears about the 5th body in Winnipeg. And so she goes on and she's crying, and she's basically like having to explain herself about why she's crying, because otherwise she's going to have all these trolls saying she's not allowed or whatever. So I just wanted to do this live so that any allies or anybody who doesn't come from indigenous communities or Black communities or BIPOC communities can understand what it's actually like to speak truth on the internet and to try to advocate for equality. That it's less than easy. That every day we're getting punched in the gut and in the heart and told we don't matter, and that we just need to accept it. We need to shush up and accept that we don't matter. That's the message we get every single time one of our women go missing or are found in a dump and no one cares. When a military police force that should never be in a free country, that is spending hundreds of millions of dollars solely to police citizens and is a charter violation, and you don't care, it's because you know deep down inside it's not for you, that you're not at risk, and that it won't ever come after you. And that's complacency. And that's when my words hurt you, because your own soul knows that you're not in loving integrity when you do that. And it's not me. I'm going to make people feel uncomfortable when I do this work. It's uncomfortable. It's going to make people feel bad because it's not happy things. So then today, as we're dealing with all of this stuff, some things are off the plate. The young gentleman had his surgery and it went really well, so that's good news. The young woman was found. I mean, she's not well, but at least she's found, and her family, really made that happen. But now, guess what? Our new mayor of Vancouver, who I can't vote for because I don't live in the municipality, shut cameras down, shut down the streets of Hastings and the downtown east side today, and did a sweep and a raid. A large percentage are Indigenous people down there. Indigenous people who are living with traumas of residential school and systemic racism that continues to today. He shut them down so he can sweep them, take their things. These are people who have nothing. I go down there to give them things. So every time you give me things to give to them, the police steal it from them. Tell me how that makes any sense. And then I don't hear that there's a plan for them. There's no plan. There's no new housing arrangements or treatment facilities that they're going to sweep them into. Where do they think they're going to go? He put out a really nice letter saying that they were all going to be in shelters. Yeah, shelters that require them to remain sober. Shelters that require them to give ID, which are stolen because the stupid cops take them. Shelters that treat them worse than criminals leaving on probation and halfway houses. But at the end of the day, until you're going to treat these people and have open treatment facilities that are easy to get into and no barriers, how does pushing them away help? Taking their tents, the one thing that is keeping them outside of the elements. How heartless do you have to be? So footage over on Sister Sage is showing Again, hundreds of police officers, VPD, all over the place. It's just like total madness to me. But then again, now trolls all over the internet telling me that these bums deserve it. All kinds of things, they choose it. Yeah, they just choose to be like that. What kind of logic is that? Anyways, and then on top of all of this, we have the BPD police chief makes $500,000 a year. How many treatment programs could we pay for? But instead, we're going to pay for the VPD chief of police to be the top paid police chief in the country. $500,000. He makes more than the Prime Minister of Canada. And then on top of that, over in Ontario, they got a police officer who has been charged with, or was actually had a sting operation. And in that sting operation, they've caught him doing drug dealing. And so they put him on paid leave since 2015. And then during that paid leave, it also became clear that he actually on camera raped a young, drunk and passed out woman, boasted about it. And he's been on paid, and now he is a convicted rapist right now. He's still being paid by taxpayers. And so I did the math on that. That guy, since he's been on paid leave, $850,000 of tax money went to him and his household for him to do nothing but be a convicted rapist and drug dealer. What world are we living in? That's what I want to know. And this is only 2 days of my advocacy on the internet. I remember a couple years ago, somebody saying, Amber, why are you always posting these things? And I was like, I would love to never post these things ever again. Would love to never post these things again. I can't help but post it when things happen daily. Daily. I just listed 48 hours of my life as an online advocate, and we have a meeting with a company that racially profiled me, a young woman and her fiance being racially profiled in healthcare in the northern of BC for 1 year, only to find out that he had a growing tumor on his spine. We have the CIRG, unconstitutional militarized police force that is solely put in place to protect private companies raiding indigenous lands that were given to them by the Supreme Court of Canada because they were never ceded to the government. So that's like a ruling inside our own justice system, but they just ignore it. So I don't know why we think it's okay for them to ignore our charter rights and Supreme Court rulings. They're above the justice system and the laws of Canada and our rights. Then we have Barbara Kay, who's a reporter over at the National Post, saying that we never experienced anything we did and that it was a good thing we went to residential school and that they saved us. And we also have somebody who's going to run for prime minister backing that same thing. So that's Maxime Bernier. People Party of Canada. Some People Party of Canada. Oh, and in all this conversation, they just keep talking to me about how they're the dominant culture. But then also say we're not oppressed. How can you be dominant over me if you're not oppressing me? It's impossible. Then we had our missing mother on our territory, and then we found a body of an indigenous woman over in Winnipeg, and the raid on the downtown east side. That's just 48 hours. So I'm just going to leave you guys with some thoughts about it. And it's, again, if I trigger you to be upset with me when I speak like this, I urge you, if you really truly want to be a loving, giving, kind, compassionate human being, to look at that. To look at that feeling I triggered inside of you and ask yourself why. Instead of blaming me. I've lost a lot of people and friends and allies. Mostly, oh man, these allies. I love you. I know you have layers to peel. I'm here for it. I will continue to be open to your learnings. I will not judge you not accept you back into my life. when you learn what you need to learn and you peel layers. But you need to peel the layers. You need to look at yourself instead of blame me. Do you know many people say, you made me feel this way? Did I make you feel that way? Or did you just feel that way? Did what I was saying hit hard because normally you're complacent and that isn't in integrity with who you want to be? Because we sure can layer things, like we had this whole freedom, Canada thing that went across Canada and is still going right now. All these people talking about freedoms. First of all, sorry, this is a slight tangent. These people talking about freedoms across Canada, do you know how many of them come to me as an advocate and say, you have no idea how corrupt the government is. You have no idea. You can't trust the government. Oh my God. We're indigenous. Of course we know we can't trust the government. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. You just woke me up to something I had no idea about. Anyways, their freedom is only for themselves a lot of the time. I'm not saying all of them. There's people who believe that, the COVID virus went too far, et cetera, and I honor everybody's right to protest, but I don't honor hypocrisy. So if you're upset about what went down in Ottawa and how the protesters there were treated, et cetera, then you should really be mad about CIRG and what goes on with the land defenders. But if you're not, then you're being a hypocrite. And let's talk about that a little bit. So I was just listening to a thought leader named Simon Sinek the other day, and I just loved something that he had to say. And he was like, I was listening to two people. So Simon Sinek and another guy, it'll come to me. Anyways, the original thought was that you can't pick and choose your logics. So you can't layer logic on one thing and then not on the other. And then Simon used a really good analogy that I loved, because I find that analogies that are a little bit more generic really help people understand instead of staying inside of the hot topic. So he said that he has a friend who works in the stock market, and that's when things are going really, really well, it's because his friend is a genius. But when things are going really bad, it's because the stock market is volatile. So he's saying, well, you can't have it both ways. You either have the stock market determines, so then therefore when you are winning, you're lucky. When you're losing, it's a volatile stock market. Or you're super smart. Therefore, when you're winning, you're super brilliant. And when you're losing, you kind of messed up in your own logic and right, Same thing goes here. You can't talk about freedoms for all and then only talk about it for yourself. It's not freedom then. It's freedom for you. You can't sit here and say that you want love and freedom for everybody, but then get upset when I make you uncomfortable, when I speak about the truths. I mean, you can, because you got to peel layers, just like the rest of us. And on that note, too, us BIPOC are peeling layers every day as well. We were raised up in the same conditioning and brainwashing of the system that we all were, and that translates into all kinds of things. That translates into things like our belief system of what we can achieve. And mindset training tells me that if you don't believe you can achieve, then you're not going to. And if everywhere around you, you're constantly being told directly and indirectly that you don't matter, you don't count, and you will never make it at the top, then of course you're never going to believe it. I honestly believe that my success in the beauty business and rising to the top was everything to do with the fact of being surrounded by matriarchs. Because I was just taught that female power was ingrained in me. So I think that's honestly the reason that I was able to get there. But we're told all kinds of things that we buy into. And it's constantly being shown, as I just said, every time an Indigenous woman goes missing and doesn't get looked for or is found dead in a dump and no one cares, it just tells me that I don't matter. It just tells me that could happen to me. So it's I don't know how I'm supposed to not be upset about that. Or, not express emotion or anger about it. So I just wanted, to give a little bit of insight about what it's like for us who are trying to raise awareness. We get a lot of hate. We get a lot of people turning on us. It's very lonely. We have each other, basically. I had the entire beauty business turn on me, essentially, with, select awesome humans that have, backed me. But for the most part, I'm a liar or whatever. Didn't experience it. Because the other thing that people do is they like to layer their own experience onto others, and they call it empathy. Empathy isn't about that. You're not actually empathizing when you listen to somebody's story and then you choose to decide if it's valid or not by putting your own experiences on top. That's not empathy. That's judging. You're judging whether or not it pertains. And so even in the beauty business, where I experienced a lot of discrimination, I've had people tell me, that's weird. That wasn't my experience with that person. As if that discounts me instead of proves my point. Because if you're not BIPOC and you didn't have that experience, then it kind of says something, doesn't it? Right? And in the world, as a BIPOC female, we also have to decide, am I being gender discriminated against or is it racial? Because there's two different discriminations that we face. And sometimes it's both. So I'm just going to urge y'all to, when triggered by things that you hear that you like, ask yourself why you feel that way instead of automatically becoming defensive and blaming the messenger. And to stop empathizing by placing your own experiences onto it to decide if it's valid. Otherwise, you're doing exactly what Barbara Kay and Maxime Bernier are doing. They feel themselves superior enough to deem whether or not our experiences happened or not. And they also deem themselves to be superior beings enough to be able to be the person who goes, we figured it out, everybody. So anyways, obviously I've left the beauty business in many ways and am now using my public speaking voice for this. And that's why I'm posting this. And so I do hope that all the beauty professionals that follow my page use this opportunity to learn as well, because as beauty professionals, we have a really big opportunity to spread love and awareness in our chairs. Almost every single person that is Canadian today sits in a hairdresser's chair of some kind. Almost all of them, not everybody, but a large percentage. And we have compassion, and we sit inside the communities, and we do have that opportunity to help to change and shape people's belief systems about what we've been told about the indigenous, about Black people, about all BIPOC or any kind of hierarchy, drug addiction, homelessness, all of it, So I hope that the beauty professionals that do follow my content learn and take something from it and choose to spread that love, around. So I thank everybody who follows me and boosts me and supports me and sends me love. And for all that I make uncomfortable, that's what I'm trying to do. Sorry. Anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. Just, again, a little insight into the life, 48 hours in the life of an online advocate. I see your support. I know who's supporting me, and I love you. Thank you.